All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
And hello all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yeah, everybody. The S is on. You know it. The commish is here.
Albert, thank you.
And Kim is here.
Kim, how are you? And
we have a new camera shot. If you're listening on the podcast, you can't appreciate how gorgeous I am with this new close-up. It's a little closer, isn't it, Albert? It's a bit...
It's a tighter shot. We're a little closer to Mark Thompson than we were last year, I guess. Yeah.
I'm really hoping that the tighter shot gets us some more Patreon subscribers. I live only for Patreon and PayPal support. That's my whole world now. My hand is out all the time. We've got a great show today. Friday's always a fun show. There was a quake here in Southern California.
A little shaker.
One part of the show comes from different locations, of course. Bay Area centric, Albert and Kim, and then myself. And it's a 4.4 magnitude in Southern California. We felt nothing here at the Mark Thompson Stronghold. Yeah, I know. It's just the kind of thing. We felt nothing for years in every way. Yeah, our feelings have been dulled.
You had two. You had a 2.9 near Yosemite Lakes.
Oh.
Yeah, and then you had, and that's closer, I think, to where most of Southern California. And then, and then you also had this 4.1 near Lytle Creek. And so that's a little further south.
Well, what is this? I'm seeing a 4.6 at Rancho Cucamonga.
Really?
And I'm seeing a 4.4. The epicenter near Lytle Creek. That's the 4.4. Just as you said.
I think they downgraded it to 4.1.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, having been downgraded myself, I understand all about that. So we'll constantly revise. I will put my credibility glasses on to recognize first right away. It was a baby quake, says Edward.
Yeah.
Stephen, are you kidding me? Thank you for a $5 super sticker.
Hey. Shout out.
I know. Yesterday at this time, I was reading a lengthy negative comment. The lengthiest negative comment that I've ever received. Stephen, thank you. I want to give him a second big shout out.
Big shout out.
You can super
There's never been anything like this
during the show. And on the quake, by the way, Trevor in Hollywood is saying Hollywood Star Studios was swaying back and forth. Wow.
Wow.
Glad Fort Thompson did not suffer any damage from the quake. Shaken all over from Jim Shields. It just happened. They don't know the exact magnitude, says John. Oh, thank you.
No, I think they do. I'm looking at the USGS website. So
yeah. So I think, John, Kim is taking you on that. So I'm just saying, John, maybe... do you want me to tilt this shot down? I can do that, Albert. Are you happy with this, Albert?
It's good.
It's good?
I like it.
All right.
Yeah, with the earthquakes, I feel like all the mugs might be casualties, right?
Oh, that's such a good point. Albert has raised an extremely important and relevant concern.
Maybe
Albert, thank you.
Keep those down or something.
I mean, honestly, this looks like just decoration, these mugs, but they were all carefully placed there. And these mugs, I put the sticker, which I got on the Get Mark merch site. I put it on each mug. And I will tell you that if the mugs were to tumble, even though it looks like just decoration, it would cost the show some serious money.
Maybe straight out of our paychecks.
Maybe I just put the broken mugs back up there. Kim has rallied a picture from the USGS of the latest seismic activity nationwide and here in California.
You're going to see this big red dot right here on the California coast. That's the 4.1 near Lytle Creek. And then we had that 2.9, and that's the blue dot here. And that's near Yosemite Lakes.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
So
that's
interesting. And so the other dots that are on your map of the United States, those dots reflect other seismic activity?
They do, indeed.
Oh, it's kind of interesting.
But they turn different colors if they're older. So the orange ones were probably yesterday or the day before, but the red ones just happened.
I like a woman who knows her way around the USGS website.
Telling you.
Yeah.
I'm not new to the newsroom, friend.
That's right, kid. You're on top of the news. Let's get into it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Second hour, Michael Shure joins. We'll talk politics. He's in Iowa. We'll talk about the Iowa Caucuses. Remember, the Iowa Caucuses are not a primary. They don't function like a primary. I think they're ridiculous. I think they're yet another ridiculous way in which we choose a president. This electoral college is absurd, as you know, and I get it, and I hear it in the chat, and I hear it in email. Mark, but you've got to give the smaller states a chance, they would be forgotten otherwise. Yeah, but they have an oversized say in the election of the chief executive. You must concede that. Anyway, the caucuses in Iowa, they're not even secret ballots. They're not ballots at all. I'll let Michael Shure explain them. But it's absurd, and it leads things off, and it's a predictive. It's predictive of nothing. In other words, you can do well in Iowa and you fall away. Now, generally, what happens is the money and funding and support that comes with some good showing in Iowa will carry you into the other primaries. But the reality is, it's a throwback. Like so many things in America, it should be done away with. It should be retooled. They should make it a primary. But look, anyway, it's where the GOP will be having their kickoff to the primaries, even though it's not a primary. The caucus, I think it goes down in like 8 days. I have also Michael Snyder next hour, the Culture Blaster. Okay, so that's what we have to do. I wanted to update some breaking news in the world of Trump. I have a choice here. Albert, this is the kind of thing we should have talked about before, but it's so breaking of the moment. We didn't have a chance to. I have either a chunk of Trump or Law and Disorder. What would you like? Because it does involve the law and it does involve Trump. What would you prefer, sir? You are the producer, and I will go with whatever you decide.
I think chunk of Trump is the way to go.
All right, chunk of
Albert, thank you.
So let's kick it off. Big news in the Trump world. This is your chunk of Trump.
Open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
This is breaking. The New York Attorney General wants $370 million from Trump and the co-defendants in the civil fraud trial. That's right. It's not the
What?
It's not the $250 million that was originally mentioned. New York Attorney General Letitia James arguing that Trump and his co-defendants' intent to defraud while preparing the former president's financial statements was, quote, inescapable, seeking the repayment of $370 million in disgorgement, and disgorgement is a ding word, or ill-gotten gains, as she continues. This is, as I mentioned, a dramatic increase over the original figure, which was $250 million. Go back to the argument. This is a quote. The myriad deceptive schemes that they employed to inflate asset values and conceal facts were so outrageous that they belie innocent explanation. Belie will get a ding. Judge Arthur Engoron has already ruled in a summary judgment ruling, as you know, finding that Trump and his co-defendants were liable for persistent and repeated fraud. He also ordered the cancellation of Trump's business certification in New York. Trump's appealed that decision. The court has paused dissolving the companies. Everything's kind of in a pause. But when David Katz rolls around next week, we'll see, we'll check the timeline and everything. But this is big news. The Attorney General is also asking for a 5-year ban for Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. Trump's attorneys arguing today that Engoron, the judge, should reject the allegations against Trump. They say that most of the transactions in the Attorney General's complaint were beyond the statute of limitations, that Trump's statements of financial condition did not contain material misstatements. I mean, they're just essentially, they're making it up. I mean, my God, the judge just looked at it and said, guys, we don't need to go to trial on this. Come on. The 11-week trial was conducted to determine how much the Trumps and their company must pay and the fate of the former president's business in New York. The Attorney General's office sought to prove 6 additional claims against Trump, including conspiracy, issuing false financial statements, falsifying business records, and insurance fraud. Wow.
I mean,
Where's the if you get them in order?
How bad do you have to screw up that they no longer want you to do business in their state?
Right.
You're banned. That's it. We're done with you.
Well, Trump has already been banned, as you're aware, from doing the charity business work. Mm-hmm. And I use charity business in air quotes because he stole money from a cancer charity. Look it up. I didn't make it up.
Google it.
I absolutely know that facts are alarmingly clear in the case of Trump there. And now to the other lead story, which, by the way, was reported in great detail along the way during the Trump presidency by David Fahrenthold in the Washington Post. He was a guest on our show. He had all the receipts that were available anyway on the ways that the Trump organization made sick money during the Trump presidency, trading essentially access to the president, and it was an open secret that you could curry favor with Trump by dumping money into his various properties. So we talked about it at length. The Saudis would rent entire floors of the hotel without ever staying in the hotel. This is in the various Trump properties, but the one in Washington was the one that really was the, it was the hotel of choice, and it was the revenue generator of choice.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
And the Saudis were big. Before the T-Mobile merger, you'll remember T-Mobile bought a bunch of hotel suites. They would buy conference rooms in various Trump properties and never do a conference there. It was just a way to dump money into the Trump coffers. So I guess what I'm getting at is we knew on some level of this going down.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
But the reality of who spent the money is now becoming clearer. The Chinese government and its state-controlled entities spent over $5.5 million at properties owned by Donald Trump while he was in office. That's the largest total payment made by any single country, according to financial documents cited in a report of House Democrats. This was released yesterday. Those payments collectively included millions of dollars from China's embassy in the U.S., a state-owned Chinese bank accused by the U.S. Department of Justice of helping North Korea evade sanctions, a state-owned Chinese air transit company as well. Accounting records from Trump's former accounting firm, Mazars USA, were obtained by the House Oversight Committee. China is one of 20 countries that made at least $7.8 million in total payments to Trump-owned businesses and properties during the former president's stint in the White House. That included his hotels in D.C., New York, Vegas. The documents offer additional evidence of this rare practice of foreign governments spending money directly with businesses owned by a sitting president.
Crazy. Don't we have the emoluments clause in the Constitution to prevent such a thing? And I go back to the 14th Amendment, right? If it's not used, if we have it and no one uses it, then what good is it? And this is the law of the land. Well, the Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, the emoluments clause, forbids U.S. office holders from accepting any present emolument, office, or title from a foreign country because they don't want a sitting U.S. president or any office holder to accept foreign influence, domestic influence, or the influence of one branch of government over the other. So why hasn't he been charged with this?
This is something that, like many things in the law, is interpretive. because I raised this early on, as you know. I was screaming this from the rooftops before Trump even became president. But to me, everything was so obvious. There was no sleight of hand there. Mark Leibovich's book called, what was it? What was his most recent book called, Albert? Could you check it? It's a very deliberate and complete review of all the ways in which Trump businesses had their coffers fed by those trying to ingratiate themselves to the former president. Ingratiate would be a ding word. The idea somehow that you could have this centerpiece was the hotel in Washington, but oftentimes it was some of these other properties, and they were used. And what Leibovich does really well, I think, was it called something like
Thank you for your servitude.
Thank you, yes, thank you for your servitude.
Yeah.
In Thank You for Your Servitude, he lays out, and this was a compilation of some stuff that we knew, but he's a great writer, and he laid it out really well. In Thank You for Your Servitude, he essentially talks about how this place, this hotel, the Trump Hotel in Washington, just a few blocks from the White House, became a clearinghouse, essentially, for those who were trying to curry favor with the president and his administration. So you had a lot of administration officials there, and they were feted in all these different ways, not to mention, as I've just suggested, many rooms and floors of the hotel were bought up by foreign powers or domestic concerns who had business before the chief executive. So all I'm trying to get at is this is unprecedented, but now to your emoluments clause. You'd think, wow, well, Mark, all that stuff you just said, that's emolument violation.
Right.
It's interpretive.
How many laws does he have to break? How many parts of the Constitution does he have to trample on in order to be tossed out? It's crazy.
If you talk to to lawyers who have some knowledge of the Constitution and such, they will show you all the ways that you can shimmy around this stuff. My father is a constitutional lawyer. And I hit him during the Trump administration with exactly what Kim is saying, which is, come on, dude. The guy is, he's lining his pockets right now with foreign money. As I said, the Friiiidaaay reporting in the Washington Post had chapter and verse on this with receipts. And my old man said, emoluments is one of those things, like, what is it? Like, it's not I said, well, what is it? He's getting money from a foreign power is what it is. He said, yeah, but you can argue the gray area of this, the shade of this. And I thought, wow. The other thing I think, Kim, is what you were suggesting, which is you need a cop on the beat. If you don't have somebody enforcing it, calling it out, if you don't have a cop on the beat, then it goes completely unchecked. And that's what happened in the last administration. You had no congressional effort to call him to task on this or to take him to task on this, because who controlled Congress at the time? The GOP. They're not going to call in their own guy. And by the time the Democrats took hold, and we know the Democrats are weak sauce when it comes to trying to crack the whip, they did nothing on these things that we're talking about. I think you're right. I think it's clear as day. But again, it does not, for whatever reason, get Trump in trouble. Obviously, if Trump were to retake power, it would be all bets are off. All bets are off.
Scary.
But this is the latest, and the latest comes in the form of rare looks, I guess you would say, at documents and receipts that suggest that China is one of 20 countries that made at least $7.8 million in total payments to Trump-owned businesses. And the last thing I'll say, and this is, big news because it's China, but the soaking of the U.S. taxpayer was something that Trump was doing in big, big numbers through Secret Service. Friiiidaaay reported on that in the Washington Post. So the way Secret Service works, and I'll just do this real quick and we'll move on, is Secret Service needs to protect the president and his family. And so Secret Service needs to book hotel rooms wherever the Trump family is going to be. Okay, well, so they book the rate at the top rate. the U.S. taxpayer, despite the fact that Trump said he was giving him a break, didn't get a break. Actually, there was a markup on a lot of the Secret Service room and board that they were getting at Trump properties. But it goes beyond that. When Trump says, I'm not sure if I'm going to go to Mar-a-Lago this weekend or if I'm going to my property in Scotland. I'm thinking about going there because I need to check on some things there. Or maybe I may actually just go up to New Jersey to my property there. I'm not sure. I'll let you know. When Trump says that, because the Secret Service needs to know days in advance, what does the Secret Service do? They book rooms for all of their agents in those properties that I just mentioned.
Oh, man.
And that costs the American taxpayer money, even though the president isn't going to stay there. These are the ways that Trump Inc. continued to soak the American taxpayer, to benefit from foreign powers who had business before the chief executive. It's awful, but it's real. That is your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
It's a sad thing with passings, but on this Friday, I do want to acknowledge a couple of high-profile passings. First, I'll tell you who just passed away, and then I'll tell you there was one last week I didn't get a chance to mention. David Soul has passed away.
Yeah.
Now, David Soul, are you familiar with him at all? Kim, seems like it might be a little before you, but
I wouldn't have known his name, but I've heard of the show Starsky and Hutch before.
Starsky and Hutch was like such a 70s TV show.
That. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, with the fast car and, the two guys who are, they're undercover cops, right? Yeah. Putting their life on the line. Albert, he was 80 years old. David Soul, actor, rocketed to fame in the 1970s. He was also a singer. I mean, a really successful pop singer. And he had, I believe, dual citizenship. He was both a British citizen and an American citizen. He spoke like an American. But it was interesting. I didn't know that until I looked at his bio. But I wonder, can you run a little promo? This is Starsky and Hutch, a 70s show, and it's very 70s. Here it is.
You'd never know they were cops unless you broke the law.
I mean, who are we supposed to trust?
Same people we always trust. Us.
Starsky. Hutch.
I'm Starsky. She's Hutch.
Yeah,
Welcome
there you go.
to
Starsky and
a bright new
Hutch.
world
Right, that's
this
right.
fall on
That's right.
ABC.
You'd never know they were cops. Now, he was Starsky or Hutch, Albert? I think he was Starsky, wasn't he?
Nope. He was Hutch.
He was?
I think so.
Go back to the promo. He did it. Ernie said it. Starsky, Hutch. And there were pictures of each. Go back, Albert.
You'd never
Let me
know
see.
they were cops unless you broke the law.
I mean, who are we supposed to trust?
Same people we always trust. Us.
Starsky.
See, he's Starsky, Kim. How dare you, Kim? I just really, nope, he's not. He's Hutch. Sometimes Kim just wants to disagree with me, Albert. Do you see how she does that?
True.
We just saw it 3 seconds before. I said, so he was Starsky, right? Nope. He was Hutch. I'm Kim. I know better.
We had the comment section involved, so we also have Phineas who says
Phineas, how dare you take, and this is what happens. People take Kim's side.
So I have
this
a
little
story from ABC that says Soul was best known for his role as Detective Kenneth Hutch Hutchinson in Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, wait a minute.
Not making it up.
I may have to retract.
Thank you.
I may have to retract, and I'm not too big to retract.
Bless America.
Yeah. I may have to retract, Albert.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
I know. I went with the attitude, but I think that she was making an honest mistake given the ABC statement. But ABC is wrong. He was Starsky.
Really?
100% he was Starsky. The promo is right here. Go back. Just go back a couple of seconds. It says Starsky, Hutch.
Starsky.
Boom. There it is.
Hutch.
I mean, that's there. There's no. It's that ABC thing was what was it? It was an AB. Who wrote it? It was the obit. Was what? From who?
I'm looking back for it.
I'm just saying, there's some young person writing these obits. They don't even know who these guys are.
You might be right.
In this clip, I think they flipped it right here.
He's Hutch.
He's Hutch, and
oh, wait a minute. Go back. Hold on a second.
I'm Starsky. He's Hutch.
Oh, you're right, Albert.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I feel like we're like those referees when an NFL calls challenge. We're reviewing.
This is a challenge. Wow,
Albert, back to the tape. That's funny. Yeah,
Albert, you may have uncovered video evidence. Wait a minute.
He's Hutch.
Wow, I think you're right. Then why would they? But then later in the promo, it's the reverse. Hold on a second. David Soul passes away. He was born August 28th, 1943, to a Lutheran minister and teacher. He was drawn to the stage, launched his acting career as a founding member of Firehouse Theater Company in Minneapolis. He first gained attention when he appeared on the Merv Griffin Show as the covered man, a singer who performed while wearing a mask and looked more like a bank robber than a blues singer. That led him to his first television appearance on Flipper. Soul's big break came when he was cast as Detective Ken Hutch. Wow.
My bad. I'm sorry.
In Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah.
Kim, first of all, bravo, Kim, I'm going to ding Kim for being right. I'm also going to retract my...
honestly, I think you need to apologize to the entire Mark Thompson Show community for all the people you've offended today in such an egregious manner.
My words upset so many people.
I think that is true. I don't know why they would have said anybody, but...
I don't think you look sorry enough.
I misspoke. Okay?
I misspoke.
And I do stand corrected.
I stand corrected.
He's Hutch, says Calvin Wong, who is the shadow producer. And Calvin adds a substantial super sticker. Thank you, Calvin Wong. Can you put him up there, Albert?
Big shout out.
Oh,
He's
Calvin.
Hutch with 4 exclamation points. 5150, which is what I need to maybe be brought in on. I was going by the promo. I go by whatever Ernie says in those promos.
I can't believe you know the promo guy's name. That's funny.
Shadow producer Calvin Wong. Well, Ernie Anderson is one of the great promo voices in history. Jim Slayton. Thank you, Calvin Wong, shadow producer of this show, Hutch. I like the new combative Kim of 2024. Chit, 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 says Jim Slayton for $9.99, $10.
I only fight back when I know I'm right, Jim.
Well, that's not true. Kim is loaded to fight back all the time. But Randy, I don't know if Randy knew it. If Randy actually knew this, I give him great credit in the chat, Kenneth Hutchinson, but he was Hutch. Wow. Gosh, that promo was wrong then. Hey, Starsky, Hutch. There's Starsky and Hutch. Only we don't know which one is Hutch, and we don't know which one's Starsky in the same promo. Oh, my God.
Yeah, Scott Rittenberg said it was an original shtick, flipping names, so maybe you were duped also.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. I'll tell you the truth. I'm 67 years old. I used to watch the show, says Randy. I never watched the show. Like, I didn't see even one episode of the show, so I may be the wrong guy, but I always thought he was Starsky. He should have been Starsky, don't you think, everybody?
Stop it.
Anyway, David Soul and was it Paul Michael Glazer? What was his partner's name?
You got it right. Mm-hmm.
They had a red hot show, 75 to 79, one of the most popular TV shows of all time, and turned Soul and Glazer into small screen stars. Earlier, Soul, an outspoken opponent of the Vietnam War, played the part of Swede in the 1971 anti-war movie Johnny Got His Gun. Maybe you could put a picture of him up there, Albert, while I'm speaking about him. Soul has had a successful singing career, as I was mentioning. He had a hit in 1977 with a song called Don't Give Up on Us. And then I think maybe owing to his popularity in the United Kingdom, he had a song called Silver Lady, #1 in the UK.
Silver Lady, I like that.
Silver Lady. Yeah, baby.
Girl, you just woo.
But in the 1990s, he went to Britain, launched a new career as a stage actor on the West End, which is like Broadway, of course. He eventually made London his home. There they are, Starsky, Hutch. He was married how many times? Oh, my gosh. How many times was this guy? You got to admit, he's super handsome, right?
Yes, handsome.
How many times? Where is the? Damn it! I don't know where the music is.
I'm gonna say it's 4.
How many times is David Soul married? Everyone, the gorgeous David Soul.
Was it 4?
Was it 4? Is that what we're going to guess? 4. Kim
Yeah.
says 4.
There's a lot of 5s in the chat from
A lot of
Mindy, John
5s.
Watson.
Wow, people really. Is 5 a number where you kind of go, dude, maybe marriage isn't your thing? A lot of 5s. 3 says William Martinez. Edward Lee says 5. How many times was David Soul married? He was married at the time of his death, by the way. The answer is 5. Yes.
Oh,
very
5.
well.
Okay.
There you go.
So very low on the Larry King scale.
Yeah, the Larry King still the high water mark at 8, and with the double back accounting for one of those marriages. That is David Soul, and he is gorgeous, and he is apparently immensely talented. I gave you a few of his talents as a singer, as an actor, and then, of course, as a legit stage actor in London, where he passed away. And then the other big passing that we didn't get to, Shecky Green passed away. Shecky Green was sort of like old world comedian, and he was 97. They called him the Lord of Las Vegas. I have to be honest, I knew who he was and saw him in a lot of stuff, but I didn't realize that he was a master improviser, which is what is referred to in a few of his obits. Her husband, Mario Musa Green, says, and they were married, of course, at the time of his passing. He died of natural causes, she says. 41 years they were together. Those who saw Shecky Green and his decades of comedy dominance on the Vegas Strip in the 50s, 60s, and 70s said that with a mic in his hand, he could roam a room and work a crowd like no other.
He was all about the ad lib. He was all about playing off the audience. And so I was reading that when they tapped him to do a show in Hollywood, he had a hard time because it wasn't ad lib, it was all scripted, and he didn't have that live interaction with the crowd, and so whatever happened didn't work there because that wasn't his way.
Wow. I had no idea. Body like a linebacker's, a wit as quick as lightning, and a voice that suggested he could have been a lounge singer instead of a lounge comic. Green, in the course of a night, would plow through dozens of impressions, do extended riffs at the audience members, and turn musical standards into parody songs on the spot. Wow, what a guy. He made appearances in films. History of the World Part 1, Splash he was in with Tom Hanks. Showed up on network sitcoms, Laverne and Shirley, Mad About You. He was a constant guest on talk and variety shows. But he never really clicked on the screen, they say here. He needed a crowd he could interact with, a whole night to woo that crowd. He never became as famous, for example, as comic contemporaries like Don Rickles, Buddy Hackett, or Carson. But he pulled the same six-figure-a-week paychecks as they did for live shows in Las Vegas. Born Fred Sheldon Greenfield, Green took to singing, acting, making jokes, and doing mock accents while growing up on the north side of Chicago. Was in the Navy in World War II in the Pacific. He moved to Palm Springs, trying to retire in his 70s in 2004, but he went back to the stage, returned for a stint in Las Vegas, was at the Suncoast Hotel and Casino in 2009. I'm a legend, he told The Sun in 2009, but nobody knows me in Vegas anymore. Shecky Green passes away at 97. So those are two notable passings on this Friday.
I have one as well, if I can share.
Yes, please.
This is actor Chris Oliver, and I know I'm sharing it in a way that covers your face, and I'm sorry. But that is Chris Oliver, and apparently he just passed away. He was in a plane crash in the Caribbean with his two daughters. He was in Speed Racer and Valkyrie, 51 years old. According to Deadline, they were in this small plane that crashed into the ocean off a Caribbean island on Thursday. The plane's owner and pilot also passed away in this accident, along with Oliver and his two daughters, Matilda, who was 10, and Anique, who was 12, the only passengers in this plane. This happened again in the Caribbean. The plane was headed to St. Lucia, and right after takeoff, it experienced difficulties and nosedived right into the ocean.
Oh my God, that's so sad. Jeez, that's sad. Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you, Courtney's always worried about those small planes. We took a bunch of them when we were in Africa and Tanzania. You can't get to where we went in Tanzania unless you're in a plane the size of this desk. It's a really tiny plane, man, and you get worried. And she was thinking taking Xanax or something to be able to. And I was scared too. And it was,
I flew in those planes every day for KGO.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
I mean, I was up in the plane and in the helicopter doing traffic for, I want to say, nearly a year.
You also worry about the training of the pilot. I mean, in the case of the KGO pilot, you presume that's a well-trained pilot. But look, Jane Dornacher died in the helicopter that went down for WNBC in New York. I mean, that's a big station, and you got to figure that pilot worked for a big company.
Yep.
It does happen. Hey, Glynis Johns passed away, as long as we're bumming everybody out. She played Mrs. Banks and Mary Poppins, but here's the part that won't bum you out. Maybe you can get a picture of her, Glynis, Glynis Johns. She did live to 100, so that's a pretty cool long life. And she was in a movie that will be forever remembered, Mary Poppins, a classic.
She was the
Glynis
mom.
Johns. She played Mrs. Banks.
Mm-hmm.
And there she is, Glynis Johns, back at the time of her career beginning. So glad we could bum everybody out with some sad passings, but
The Mark Thompson Show.
It does happen. When we come back, what are we going to do here? We'll do a Turbo News, and then we can do Friday
Turbo
Fabulous
News,
Florida,
and then Florida. And I think we did pre-record with Michael Shure, as everyone will see later, and that's a little shorter, so we could we could take our time with.
Yeah, we can go over to the 11 o'clock hour, or 10 or 12 o'clock hour on the West Coast, but beginning of the second hour we can bleed into. Thank you, Albert.
Albert, thank you.
The button that has a thumb on it, if you're watching on YouTube, that helps us if you smash it
with your iron rod.
Thank you, those of you who hit us with super stickers and super chats today. Yeah, we're crowdfunded, so I've got to, constantly revisit that. I try not to be too obnoxious about it. Gordon Andrews, how about a 5-spot from Gordon?
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Gordon. And Vivian El Shah. Well, come on, Vivian. She is HOF too.
Big shout out.
I've got to review the Hall of Fame. I think it's growing. We have more and more regular supporters. So thank you, all of you who've been part of today's show thus far. There is some of the best parts of the show still to come. I know, it's incredible. Fabulous producer John Daly, who's no longer with the show. He's producing the After Party Live now. He is standing by, and he'll join us for Friday Fabulous Florida. And we'll have him, we'll have Albert, we'll have Kim, we'll have myself for Friday Fabulous Florida next. Kim's news, and then we get into some Florida news.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. Let's talk about this earthquake that happened this morning. Yeah, this is a Southern California earthquake. Here's a picture you can see. I keep trying to click on it. Is it coming? It's not coming. Nope. Okay, so this is an earthquake that happened this morning in Southern California. It was, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, a magnitude 4.1 hit at 10:55 a.m., so just a couple minutes before the Mark Thompson Show begins, and it was centered near Lytle Creek. That's about 60 miles east of Los Angeles in the Cajon Pass. No reports of damage or injuries, but reports of a lot of people feeling it around that area. Hundreds of more documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein alleged sex trafficking have been released by a federal court in New York. According to a transcript released Wednesday from a female victim, Epstein allegedly told her former President Bill Clinton likes them young. Although the two have been linked through business, Clinton denies knowledge about Epstein's crimes or anything related to that. The first major winter storm of the season is set to slam the East Coast. Forecasters say the storm will dump the first major helping of snow on the region in 2 years. Now, before it barrels into the east, the storm is expected to pour drenching rain on the Gulf Coast all day and through into tonight as well.
We need snow on the West Coast, as you well know. We need snow nationwide.
Do.
There's a huge problem with snowpack. Go ahead.
Yeah. House Republicans are preparing to hold the president's son, Hunter Biden, in contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena to appear for a closed-door deposition.
That's rich, given the fact that half the people on that committee were subpoenaed and they didn't show up. They could all be, right? Jim Jordan, you should be on a wanted poster. You essentially flipped Congress the bird when they subpoenaed you.
Well, the House Oversight Committee will hold a markup next week to prepare the contempt resolution for a vote. Republicans subpoenaed Hunter Biden as part of their impeachment inquiry into the Biden family's business dealings. He says, I'll testify in open court. I'll testify in an open hearing that the public can see. But when you close the doors and then you come out and tell all kinds of lies about what happened, that's a problem. So, yeah. Again, as mentioned earlier, Starsky and Hutch star David Soul, who I'll again note played Hutch, has died at the age of 80. His wife said he passed away Thursday after a valiant battle for life in the loving company of family. Soul was best known for his role as Detective Kenneth Hutch Hutchinson on the popular 1970s crime drama. So, yeah, he has passed away at the age of 80.
Albert, could you grab me the drop where, he's Starsky, he's Hutch? I feel like in the years to come, if the show lasts years, we will continue to revisit this. So if you could just, that promo you ran, he's Starsky, he's Hutch. I want that if you can get
I'll send that over.
Thank you, sir.
Why would you think the show won't last years? I mean,
I didn't say that. I mean, actually, that's what I was saying, that if it lasts years, I'm just saying, I don't mean to be too presumptuous in my...
House Democrats are calling on Justice Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from a case involving Donald Trump's eligibility to appear on the ballot in Colorado. They say that's because the conservative justice's wife, Ginny Thomas, was an outspoken supporter of Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. She attended the Stop the Steal rally before the Capitol attack.
She paid for people to be bussed there. She's not,
I come from regular stock.
Yeah.
Neutral? I don't know. Democrats claim she was instrumental in planning the rally and bringing the insurrectionists to the Capitol, as Mark mentioned.
She did everything but set up chairs. Are you kidding?
Trump said this week asked the Supreme Court to overturn a Colorado court ruling that happened last month, disqualifying him from appearing on the ballot over actions leading up to the Capitol riot. So, that's what we know. Unfortunately, and lastly, because I know we have to get to Michael Shure, but staff at a Lexington, Kentucky restaurant want their Snoop Dogg statue back. Fox 56 reports the statue was stolen from inside of the entrance to Mi Pequeña Hacienda, my little store, at about noon on Wednesday. The restaurant does have the thief on surveillance camera. Employees say the 2 to 3 foot high statue is popular with guests who like to take pictures with it. They had a little Snoop Dogg statue. It's gone. They want it back. This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee.
How big a Snoop Dogg statue was it, though?
This was 2 to 3 feet high.
I don't know. How did they walk out? I mean, somebody walked out of there with that? Is that what you're telling me?
Scoop it up and walk on out.
I see. Wow. It's sad. What's happening?
This report.
What the hell is going on with the United States of America, Albert? Where's that drop when I need it?
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Thank you. Ron gets it.
Coachella Valley coffee, so good, so amazing. Huge fan of the teas. Mark loves the coffee. Can't go wrong. Special treat for yourself. It's the best. So check them out at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Go to the website, click around a little bit, and then if you end up making a purchase, make sure at checkout that you enter Mark T all together, and that'll get you your 10% off. So
I just want to say one thing in the new year to remind everybody. The great thing about Coachella Valley Coffee, as I say, I was drinking it for a long time. I'm really proud that they're on our show at all.
Yeah.
And they sponsor Kim's News from time to time. It's as I've told you, the best coffee I've ever tasted. Okay, straight up. And I wondered why, and one of the reasons, they're very careful about where they source their beans. And I've told you about how they invest in female-run businesses in Latin America, particularly, and also in Africa. But the other thing is it's fresh cut. It's fresh grow. You get the beans. They haven't been lying around a long time. Many of the discounted beans, the less expensive beans you'll find on the internet or whatever, those are not fresh grow. They're not first grow. There's a term for it. I think it's first grow or fresh grow.
Nobody wants old beans.
Nobody wants old beans. So these are really quality offerings. So I hope you'll go to the website, check them out, and we love them for their support of the show, and we love our listeners for their interaction. But do get the 10% discount, because that's one of the things. Mark T at checkout. So there you go. Just want to mention that.
My husband didn't want to like it. He has his coffee that he likes, that he, was kind of married to. And so I got him the holiday blend, and he drinks it, and he comes into the studio here, and he goes, "Got to tell you, this coffee is really good." No, even he is a convert. Yep, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Just this morning, Courtney said, "Do you have any more holiday blend left?"
Yeah,
she loved it also. So
yeah, it's the good stuff.
Yeah.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
Smash it with your iron rod.
I come from regular stock.
There's a reason that this place is fun. Don't ever use that word.
What are the porn stars doing, Mark?
That was very inappropriate.
This thing has been dragging on and on and on.
What you say is the political dogma that they're trying to shove down our throats.
Saudi Arabia pays cash. No problem.
You know what?
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Cuatro años más.
That was very inappropriate.
I don't wear a mask for the same reason I don't wear underwear. Things gotta breathe.
Say what?
Do you have a secret talent?
I would say that's awesome, but that's not
Nothing.
awesome.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Out of time. Bye-bye. Did you really just do that?
What up, everybody? Happy New Year. If you're just joining us, this is our, third show of the new year? Fourth show of the new year? Fourth show of the new year. Right. Yeah. If you're just joining us, David Soul played Hutch. That is the thing that we learned this last hour. And yeah, I know. A lot of people think that Starsky was the character that he played, and the promos are confusing. But as it turns out, he was Hutch. Without any further delay, and there certainly has been substantial delay, and he's not a man who enjoys delay, if I can just say this. He's someone who he likes to run on time, and he doesn't like to take any delay. So how about bringing him on? He's fabulous producer John Daly. And
it's not like we have a show in an hour. Come on, Kim. I like that Kim said, I know we have Michael Shure we have to get to. Thanks, Kim.
Oh,
yeah, no,
sorry.
she skipped over Florida, too. I noted that as well.
Yeah. But it's the little things.
All is
My bad.
Copper
I'm sorry.
in the chat mentions that the Who Is Who was the running gag, and ABC was riffing on it. Copper says in the chat.
Oh, wow.
So it could have been just a running joke with the
They went out of their way to trick you, Mark. That's what.
Yeah, they really did. I really
They
just
do this
not,
to you all the time.
They do this to me
I
all
don't
the
know why
time.
they
I don't
do
know
it.
what the hell they do it for.
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Thank you. Casey gets it.
This is Casey Kasem in Hollywood.
All right, let's not go.
Do you know what their radio sign was on the CB?
No, what was it?
Zebra 3.
They were Zebra 3, Starsky and Hutch?
And you know what city it was?
I assumed Los Angeles. What was
it? It was a fictional city. It was Bay City.
Bay City.
Oh.
Bay City.
He's Starsky. He's Hutch. Unless he's Hutch and he's Starsky. All right, they do it. They serve up great stories that we like to comment on, and it's a segment curated by the wonderful Albert. We love having John in the mix as well. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
There is a lawsuit underway against Say It Ain't So, against a Dunkin' Donuts franchise. They call it Dunkin' now. I think they dropped the donuts.
Because it's cool.
Yeah.
It's hip.
In Orange County, Florida, a stop for coffee escalated into what's called a traumatic ordeal in the lawsuit.
What?
Guy filed suit against Dunkin', claiming that a toilet exploded on him in the restroom, covering him in, if you guessed human feces and urine, give yourself points today. That's right. It's not always a pretty picture at Dunkin', apparently. Paul Kerouac filed the lawsuit in the 9th Judicial District Court against this Dunkin' franchisee. He claimed this incident happened last year, but it's taken him this long to wipe the excrement from his eyes, long enough to meet with his attorneys.
Your
to
Honor, I
file
need a
this
recess.
lawsuit. What's that, John?
Your Honor, I need a recess.
Yeah, the recess. I don't know. My machine is down. I don't know.
Well, this is what happened when you have Dunkin' coffee. This is no Coachella.
I guess it's not.
Nobody wants old beans.
Yes, exactly.
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
There
Old
it is,
beans,
right?
kaboom.
Apparently, there were enough people who'd left there having asked for a recess that the restroom had issues. There were problems with the toilet. The Dunkin' people said they were unaware of the problem.
What, the exploding feature?
Yeah, the exploding feature. It's apparently he suffered bodily injury, is what he's saying, and psychological damage, resulting in pain and suffering, disability, permanent and significant emotional damage. There's really nothing that's going to bring him back from the trauma that he endured in that Dunkin' as a result of the toilet explosion, except he's willing to take offers as to things that might make him begin to forget that trauma.
Cold hard cash.
Yes, exactly. Florida thieves steal over $45,000 worth of Legos. If that wasn't bad enough, the Legos were donated for hundreds of sick kids.
No.
What?
Say it ain't so. These Legos were donated to these kids who are battling cancer.
Come on.
It was set up, this whole donation, by a local business, V Pizza. The V for Victory is a campaign associated with these kids who are
do they have a basement?
Battling cancer. What's that? Why?
Pizzagate? It's Florida. I thought maybe a conspiracy.
I see. All right. Well, it's a
They don't.
Nothing.
They don't all work. They don't all land. Mark.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, that's all right. We appreciate you trying.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
All right, and we got it.
More coffee.
The pizzeria's owner, again, the pizzeria was behind all of this, said that the amount stolen means about 440 children and their families won't be receiving any joy-bringing gifts, and that his own son battled cancer, and he started this, and now, can you imagine stealing that kind of amount of Lego and these
You're
are
a
gifts.
mean one, Mr. Grinch.
Yes, exactly. Very Grinchy. Florida man accused of exposing himself. There you go. That's
now
good
we're
old
back. We're back.
at Polk County Sky Zone. Wow. But you know what Polk County means, isn't it?
Yeah, we do.
Isn't that Grady?
Yeah, Grady Judd.
Grady.
What he's got going here is a situation.
He pulled his britches down at the Sky Zone, says Sheriff Grady Judd.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
I think
Love the expression on Judd's face in that picture.
that is J.D. Grudd and Grady Judd, and he says this is a family place where you take kids to play. Those pants were slapped down to his ankles, and he was pleasuring himself, if you know what I mean.
No.
Yeah.
That guy's got a strong look.
Yeah.
If you paint him green, he could be in the Grinch.
He doesn't look like he's somebody who would who have much pleasure in his life, but
What's a
He's
guilty
got the
pleasure
highlights.
you have?
You know, he's got the
like to
Ryan
go to-
Seacrest highlights.
he does. He could clean up pretty nicely, actually. Not only was the lady in charge able to give us a clothing description, she was able to give us a physical description, if you know what that means.
No,
What he's
Grady,
got
tell
going
us.
here is a situation.
I know what that means, Grady. Thank you. Meantime, on the other side of Florida, a woman is suing Hershey for $5 million. Says that her Reese's candies don't have carved designs. This is a lawsuit filed in federal court saying that Hershey violated Florida's Deceptive Unfair Trade Practices Act. They say in the lawsuit that those deceived into buying a Reese's peanut butter product based on false and deceptive advertising should deserve some compensation. They gave multiple examples of how the candies lack the details seen in the photos. You see how on the photo of the label, Kim,
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got a little smiley pumpkin?
Sure. Yeah.
And that's
Little
the,
jack-o'-lantern
that's the
face.
artistry you're paying for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When you choose Hershey as the artist.
It's not just about the taste is the point. Exactly. That is a lawsuit that we will keep you posted
It was wrong,
on.
it was
Again,
stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Don't come between a woman and her chocolate.
the lawyer for
Take
the
you to
plaintiff
federal
says,
court.
quote, plaintiff would not have purchased the Reese's Peanut Butter Pumpkins product if she knew that it did not have the detailed carvings of the mouth and or eyes as pictured on the product label.
Of course. You open the package and what a disappointment.
Kelly's suit intends to form a class action complaint against Hershey, meaning that other customers can join that class and they can be part of the action. Good luck, all of you deceived Reese's customers. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, a missing teen girl is found in the home of a man who abducted her after logging into World of Warcraft. What a creep this
Scary.
guy is.
Ugh.
He traveled across state lines to pick up a 16-year-old that he wanted to marry. He was arrested with the help of World of Warcraft. There he is, Thomas Ebersol, 31, taken into custody and the missing teen girl found inside his house. Investigators discovered the young victim had signed into her World of Warcraft account at the suspect's Sunshine State home. Another gaming account that belonged to Ebersol was also signed in from the same address, according to authorities, and that allowed them to hone in on her. When investigators confronted Ebersol at his Denellian home, Denellian is the name of the community, he at first denied knowing the girl before allegedly admitting that he drove to the Buckeye State to bring the victims back to his home, to bring the victim back where he could hide her with plans to eventually marry her.
What a creep.
The Buckeye State, of course, is Ohio.
Everyone knows you don't cross state lines.
He allegedly claimed he was in a romantic relationship with her, even showed authorities texts between the two on a messaging app. The messages supposedly outline Ebersol's plan to meet the victim in Ohio and have sex with her, though he knew it would lead to criminal charges. So he's charged with meeting a minor to engage in, sexual activity.
Was
blah, blah, blah.
Was he charged for that haircut?
John not happy with his booking photo look. Yeah.
He'll probably get a better haircut in jail.
Everything wrong with that young man. So
No.
Exactly. A Florida man in a unicorn floaty
There we
hooks
go.
a 10-foot shark
Oh.
in a case, and he's towed 4 miles offshore.
Mad Libs. There we go.
In a case of who caught who, a man is dragged out to sea in his floaty after catching a large shark.
It's like a Florida fever dream.
This is like
did he have a fishing pole? Like, how did he catch a shark?
a man in a rainbow unicorn floaty apparently hooked onto a shark while out fishing, and he was dragged by the shark miles offshore.
I had the craziest dream, man.
Yeah. To borrow a line from the cop in Jaws, you're going to need a bigger boat. I'm catching a shark, he yells. And based on the video, which you see here,
I don't think that's going to work.
he is going to need something more substantial than that unicorn floaty that he's in. It's all fun and games until you catch something and it drags you out to sea, right?
Yeah.
Based on the video, the guy had been fishing near the beach in Fort Lauderdale when he hooked onto the shark and was dragged 4 miles offshore.
I'm just saying, maybe if you're on a rainbow floaty, you don't want the shark near you. Maybe you should just let the pole go. I don't know.
At what point do you let the pole go?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is...
That's my favorite fishing pole.
He he goes down with the rainbow floaty.
You can see they tossed him a line, they got him on board, and once on board, he proceeded to grab the rod, land the shark, and all's well that ends well, except for the poor shark who had to endure this, and then ultimately,
that's awful.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. A Florida woman punches her dad, who's 73. She was angry over the sound that his oxygen machine was making.
Did you really just do that?
It's a large machine that makes a beeping sound to tell you that it's still functioning.
That can be very annoying.
I'm still alive. Not getting my money
yet. I didn't see
yet.
that coming. Kim on the side of the woman who slaps her old man.
I'm not.
A Florida woman taken to jail. She allegedly slapped and punched her 73-year-old dad in the face over his oxygen machine making a beeping sound.
With your iron rod.
Christine Granados, she's 49. Take a look at her. Here she is after she needed to get away from that beeping so badly that she was ready to go to jail for it. She is enduring a charge of domestic battery on a person of 65 years of age or older. What makes it worse, Kim, is that your favorite lady, Christina Granados, did this all on Christmas Day.
Oh,
that's right.
No.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say on crystal meth.
Is nothing sacred.
I'm just saying.
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
Yeah, it's not cool, man. They were arguing about the oxygen machine making a beeping sound, and Granados punched him in the face, and cops were called. A Florida business owner shoots the landscaper who was working alongside for blowing leaves onto his property. That's what
We've all been there.
Don't do it.
We're all agitated, but I could see firing a warning shot as an American in the United States of guns, but I don't
That's
see
what you
actually
normally
shooting.
do, right, Mark?
What's that?
That's what you usually do, right?
I don't. I usually turn it into a TikTok or something.
Oh, okay.
An agitated Florida tire shop owner, I don't know why that's germane to the story, faces attempted murder charges for shooting a landscaper who blew leaves that were across the street onto his property. Claudio Arendel, he's 52, the owner of P&P Auto Tire Shop in Gladeview, Florida. They may want to lose one of the P's if he's convicted of the, it'll just be P Auto Shop because the other P is in P for prison. The landscape was assigned to, a landscaper assigned to clear leaves from his customer's property before leaves started to land on Arendel's property. Witnesses said that they heard 2 gunshots and then saw the landscaper falling to the ground with an apparent gunshot wound to the leg.
Last time a blow leaves onto that property.
Yeah. Witnesses showed the landscaper sitting on the street in front of a pool of blood holding his leg.
That's awful.
Yeah. Well, this guy's going away.
Yeah.
You got a picture of him, Albert? He doesn't look too happy. I don't know what he expected to have happen. But meanwhile, in another property dispute, there was a violent altercation. Florida woman allegedly whacking the neighbor with a hammer.
Ooh.
This was over a property
Smash
line.
it with your iron rod.
2 neighbors in Florida got ugly with each other. One woman was arrested, allegedly striking the other with a hammer. The conflict erupted as Kelly Figueroa of Spring Hill.
She looks so happy.
She does. Actually, she looks like...
She looks like she's from Florida.
I was going to say, it looks like Florida happy. It's not super...
It's not her first booking photo. She's like, let me go get my makeup kit.
The 50-year-old woman was charged with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. She and her neighbor involved in several incidents amid an ongoing dispute about the property line between their homes. On the day of the incident, Figueroa said she was placing lawn stakes in her backyard. Oh, my God. For placement of a fence to be installed when she was approached by her neighbor, who she accuses of pushing her. A witness, the neighbor's son, said that was Figueroa who pushed the neighbor before striking her with the hammer that she was using to place the lawn stakes. He also said the argument over the property line started because Figueroa was reportedly placing the lawn stakes in her neighbor's yard and not in her own. No observable injuries, but they did find swelling and bruising on the left wrist of her neighbor. Wow, and I believe that closes it out. We had a lot here. Albert, you did serve up a really good segment. What is the poll in the chat? What are the choices, sir?
I'm actually trying to think of the last choice. I might just put Grady Judd in there just as a default option. But exploding toilet, unicorn floaty, turn down that oxygen machine, Dad, is a choice. And then I think just Grady Judd. I think he's just going to be a permanent fixture in the polls.
All right, so Grady Judd was the guy who was pleasuring himself. All right, so let me just remind you, we'll have to choose a favorite.
Grady Judd was pleasuring himself?
The Grady Judd was dealing with the man. Grady Judd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he was too.
Yeah. The only pleasure Grady has is in cleaning up the streets, John.
Those press conferences.
Florida man sues Dunkin' Donuts. That was the exploding toilet. It douses him in feces and urine.
Barf.
Yeah, not on the menu. Florida thieves steal over $45,000 worth of Lego that was targeted to be delivered as Christmas gifts for hundreds of sick kids who are battling cancer. A Florida man accused of exposing himself at Polk County Sky Zone. That's Grady Judd.
There you go.
Yeah. And his quote was, "Those pants were slapped down to his ankles." So
what he's got going here is a situation.
Florida woman suing Hershey. She's angry at Reese's because the peanut butter pumpkins that she purchased did not have the cute faces that were depicted on the wrapper. It's a class action suit. It wants $5 million. She might get more if there are more people in the class. Missing teen girl found in the home of a man who abducted her after logging into his World of Warcraft. That's what gave him away. He was planning to marry the 16-year-old. A Florida man in a unicorn floaty hooks a 10-foot shark that towed him 4 miles out to sea.
That's crazy.
A Florida woman slaps and punches her dad, who's 73, over the beeping sound that his oxygen tank was making.
Also crazy.
And it happened, I'll remind you, on Christmas. A Florida
Merry
business
Christmas,
owner
Dad.
business owner shooting the landscaper for blowing leaves onto his property. And the property line dispute turning violent when one Florida woman allegedly whacks her neighbor with a hammer. We don't want to pick a favorite. We view this as picking between children. We love them all.
Yeah.
But the bylaws of the Mark Thompson Show program require us to pick a favorite, and so we must. And we start with you, John Daly.
Oh, this is tough. I can relate with the beeping story, but elder abuse is not cool. So I'm going to go with Unicorn Floaty. Original.
Unicorn Floaty, Guy Toad Out.
Fabulous
I
producer,
do
John
think
Daly.
there is a lot to recommend that story.
Yeah.
I like the Mad Lib stories. Just plug in different things.
Yeah, it's true. You're right. It's also got a lot of Florida stupidity associated with it.
Right.
Yeah. Where you're messing around. They're all messing around down
That's
there.
the magic
they're messing,
sauce.
Yeah, they're messing with cars. They're messing with wildlife. They're messing with meth.
Having a good time.
Yeah. Kim, how about you? What's your favorite,
I
please?
have to go with the Rainbow Floaty. Yeah.
Rainbow Floaty. Wow. Yeah. Albert, before you tell us your favorite, what is leading in the turbo poll?
The Unicorn Floaty, of course, is
Unicorn Floaty.
It's a runaway, but I do like the jubilation. I do like the excitement that Kim has gotten from this oxygen machine story. Obviously, elder abuse not okay. But,
no, not an advocate for elder abuse. Let me just say
it's
that.
very shocking that Kim found it a little funny. So I'm voting for Kim personally. So
I see.
That's my vote this week.
Well, Unicorn Floaty is, I have to tell you, I think this is a 3-way photo finish. It is the Duncan toilet explosion, which I think has been underappreciated by our group. And the Unicorn Floaty, which maybe has been overappreciated or maybe appropriately appreciated by our group. And I think that Christmas Day smacking your dad because his oxygen machine is making beeping sounds, I got to say, that's a horrible story, but it's very Florida, and that does get my vote. I'm sorry. I think that's the... But Unicorn Floaty seems to be the... Or Rainbow Floaty seems to be the runaway winner.
Have we ever had one where we all agreed? All of us? I don't think so.
I think so.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we definitely have. Yeah.
Kim's not always like listening, so it's okay.
This is John Daly. John Daly with a
Hey, we're
very
familiar now.
Producer John Daly.
John, John, well, I'll talk to you in a moment. Anyway, thank you, everyone who joined for this segment. We love it, and we appreciate you voting. And that is Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Kim, does fabulous producer John Daly give you a little bit of a hard time on the After Party Live?
Fabulous producer
Yeah,
John
it's
Daly.
happened. It's
Fabulous
happened.
co-host.
Fabulous co-host. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
From time to time, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can
she
find
makes my
them
life
both.
difficult sometimes too.
You can find both of them on the After Party Live.
We'll do it live.
And
I'll
John
write it and we'll do it live.
hosts
My side of the apartment is a little neater.
I think they are.
Are you calling me the slob of the Odd Couple?
They're the Odd Couple. That's exactly it.
Read into
John,
it, whatever you want to read into it.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
Love
Year.
You hanging out, and we look
Welcome
forward to
back.
many more Florida segments in the days ahead. Thanks,
Cheers.
John. Oh, I love it, John. Bravo. Bravo. Good stuff. Thanks, John Daly.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I think we're way behind, Albert, but we will tell you that we recorded this. Michael Shure is in Iowa covering the Iowa Caucuses, and he's covered the Iowa Caucuses for years. So we recorded something last night, but I want to tell you something now, and that is that, we have a new camera set up here, and there was a new mic and whatever. I don't know. There's some kind of rewiring, and so Tony was up here yesterday, and he did all of
Thanks,
that,
Tony.
but he didn't change the setting on the audio So the audio for this Michael Shure segment, you're going to hear me. His audio is fine, which is the important thing. But my audio is coming through the camera, I think. So it's going to sound a little off and weird. So I'm warning you of that ahead of time. But really excited to have this conversation. Then Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, will be by. We'll talk movies. Show may run a little over today, but just letting you know ahead of time, that's the plan. So Michael Shure, who has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know, joins us from Iowa, and we ask him about the Iowa Caucuses. Here's little Michael Shure.
They're a primary election in that they select delegates that would go onto the convention and, presumably vote for whoever the nominee is or others. And, I understand why why people are down on the caucuses. I am too. But I think we also have to, we know what the downside of them is they're complex. They don't get enough people involved. They happen in the evening on a Monday when not everybody is available or wants to leave. It's in the middle of January. It's freezing out.
They're not secret ballots either, are they? I mean, you see where everybody, they're not ballots at all.
The whole idea is that they aren't secret ballots, and that's what makes it sort of a community effort in a way. And what they do, though, is they pique interest, right? People are interested in this. It sort of kicks off the season in a way that's like, okay, it's the caucuses. What the hell are the caucuses? And even afterwards, most people don't know what they are. So I think that it does generate some interest in the process. And I will say, from having covered them for a long time, every 4 years, and in the years in between, where it's all about what's going to happen 2 years from now, and then, and 1 year from now, and then it happens. I think that you find an electorate that's super interested here. The people that are voting in Iowa love the process, and they get involved in it in a way that makes everybody interested. So you'll see candidates flooding this state, and then you'll talk to voters, with the exception of the Trump voters. You go to a Haley thing and you can say, ask somebody, what brings you out here? Are you a Haley supporter? And they'll say, no, I'm just shopping. I want to listen to what she has to say. It happens on the Democratic side, on the Republican side. It is a pretty interesting electorate here in Iowa. The caucus, very briefly, works this way. X number of people in a precinct go to their caucus site. It could be in a small town at a living room in Des Moines. It could be in a high school gymnasium. You get, let's say there are 100 people at your caucus site. You need 15% of those people, that would be 15 people, to be viable, to have a candidate be viable. So there's a first ballot where everybody separates literally in the gymnasium into their groups. So it would be the DeSantis people, the Ramaswamy people, the Christie people, the Trump people, the Burgum people, whoever it is. There could be one guy who's there for Burgum who's not even in the race anymore, but he's still saying, that's what I'm doing on the first ballot. Then there's a break. You find out who's viable. Maybe it's just Trump and Haley for the purposes of this. Those people try and bring the Burgum guy, the Ramaswamy people, the Christie to their side until everybody is in a group, or there's just somebody who's not viable. And it's a collective thing. And then they delegate the delegates according to what the percentages are in that caucus.
And then they get naked? When does that happen? It feels very Hollywood game night to me.
Well, it is a little Hollywood game night. I mean, that's what it is. And that's why it's flawed, because it's Hollywood game night, and that's what they do. And so when you have the caucuses, that's the way they work. But it's problematic also because Iowa is a state that doesn't replicate the country.
That's so very true. And leave it to you to put some positive spin on it, which is that it raises interest and, actually engages prospective voters in ways that maybe other primaries don't. But in any case, it's going down soon, right? It's 2 weeks away?
It's the 15th, so it's less than 2 weeks away. It's about 10 days away.
All right, now to the politics of major aspects of American life, and I think one of the things that's talked about in this election, and they're making it a centerpiece clearly with this huge theatrical demonstration of interest in the border, is the immigration problem, and the problem that both sides agree upon, but neither side really has a solution for.
Yeah, and I think that it's really not about the solution as much as it is about, in a political election year, is about seeming to want a solution, or posturing as if you want that solution. Before you fired him, our friend Jim Avila said that the Democrats needed a bill. They needed to show some interest. And he was very right in correcting the immigration issue at the border, even if the Democrats are not the ones who think that the issue is as bad as it is, and even if they are running the Department of Homeland Security, even if they are, the other day, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, went down with 60 members of his caucus to the Texas border. They hardly saw any crossings. But the Democrats do need, and they're starting to realize this in Congress, that they need to come up with a solution-based approach to immigration that shows that they are playing hard, and they need the president to be on board with it. And the president is so thus far reluctant, because he doesn't think the problem and the way that they're handling it he'd have to acknowledge that things aren't working as well. So there will be a compromise bill.
It's interesting because you think that there will be some kind of compromise
There's
bill?
going to have to be a compromise bill, because if the president wants aid for Ukraine, now this is extra elective, so this is like what we're talking about in the real
Sure, in the interim period. Yeah,
is that they need money for Ukraine. The president wants it, and the Republicans in Congress have their heels dug in, and now some Democrats do as well, and on the fact that unless there's immigration reform, unless there's some kind of a bill that addresses the border, there's not going to be a penny for Ukraine.
Do you feel as though we'll avert a government shutdown? I mean, government shutdown, we're playing this game again, and now it's about those things that you've touched on, and that is funding for Ukraine.
I think it will be. I think it will be hard to get a government shutdown. The Democrats are not going to allow it to happen if it looks like they are going to be blamed, or Biden's going to be blamed for being intransigent on the border. So if they're saying, look, we're not going to do anything on the border, the Republicans are happy to shut the government down, because they'll say, well, the Democrats didn't want a bill, we're not going to appropriate this money, and without this money, we're not going to be able to do an appropriation in the budget. Well, if that's the case, then the Democrats look like losers. They're not going to allow it to happen. If it does look like a fractured Republican caucus in the House, as we've seen for the past year and a half anyway, since Kevin McCarthy was elected Speaker, a year, that if we see this fractured Republican caucus as the cause of the shutdown, then I think there's a chance there is a shutdown.
I mean, the cause of the shutdown is always spun, right? I mean, regardless
of course it is. Right. But there are trial balloons that are launched in the days and weeks leading up to it to see sort of how it's being perceived. And right now, when you have the Democrats pressing the White House on an immigration bill, which is not necessarily directly tied to the shutdown, but it's about budget and it's about appropriations. I think that the Democrats realize that maybe this one's going to go against them if it were to happen. And again, it's too early to say.
You mentioned actually a piece to me this week that was talking about, because there's always this chatter about, this administration, I'm talking about the Biden administration and their achievements or things that are going on, and their messaging, inability to message what they've done well. The infrastructure bill is an example. But there was something else that you pointed out, which was the oil drilling, this kind of thing that Trump is talking about, like on day one, I'm going to be a dictator and it's going to be drill, baby, drill. That'll be the only day that I'm, drill, baby, drill has really been, from Palin to Trump, the simple bumper sticker notion that they've pushed. But what you were mentioning to me is that we pumped more oil under Joe Biden than in any other administration.
We have. I mean, what's interesting is there's more domestic oil coming from this country right now than there ever has been. At the peak of, I guess it was it was probably September, October of 2019, which was the peak amount of domestic oil that was being pumped. That was at that time when Trump was president. It was 13 million barrels of crude oil a day. Now, and that was the biggest day of the Trump administration. Now, regularly, Biden is and the American oil industry is pumping 13.2 million. There's more oil being pumped here. It's why when OPEC tried to control the prices, they weren't able to do that recently because of the fact that we are pumping so much that we are not as reliant upon foreign oil as we used to be. Yet, as I walk the lines of these Trump rallies and speak to Trump voters and supporters, they all say they cannot wait until he's president again because we'll start drilling for oil here. But we're doing it more than we ever have. And it's an interesting political conundrum because the Democrats are not sort of touting this, even though it would answer the critics. They're not touting it because younger voters, more progressive voters, they don't want us to be, running the wells dry here in the United States. They want to be, caretakers of the environment, which the Biden administration also has been, and more so than many other administrations. So it's a tricky political message. But again, everybody says the Biden administration hasn't been touting this or hasn't been talking about this. They haven't been talking about anything. And it goes back to what we've talked about on this show for a while, which is the Democrats haven't spent money on this campaign yet. And once they start doing this is the kind of message that they're going to be portraying in the places where they need to do that.
It's funny, though, because I think the interesting thing about this fact and about this situation is that it's a question of what message you want. Because, right, as you suggested, to get younger people, this administration wants sort of the green president message to get out there. And yet, right, at the same time, to get some of these other voters, or really just to speak to America's energy self-sufficiency, he wants to communicate, or you'd think, there might be a question about whether or not you want to communicate the fact that, hey, I'm the guy who made us more energy independent than the last guy even.
Yeah, there's no question. And the guy that they're saying, the guy who's saying, as you mentioned in the intro to this story, Trump says on day one, he's just going to start drilling all over the country. We're already doing that, right? And gas prices are coming down. And it's had the effect already, right, of shaping the way that the international oil business works, and I think that's, when you're able to shape the dynamics in that way, we're producing so much oil that we've undermined the influence of OPEC. That's pretty big oil,
Now to a situation that no one can predict, and it appears to be worsening in some ways, and that's in the Middle East. We've, got those Houthis, the Yemeni terrorists who were supported by Iran. They're firing on shipping vessels. American choppers blew three of the boats, I believe, out of the water. I don't need to tell you what's happening in Lebanon with the likely involvement there. Was no longer this conflict with just Hamas in Gaza. It's now Hezbollah, southern Lebanon. There is a fear of a wider conflict there. Now, without getting too deep into that was just a quick snapshot. I've left a ton of stuff out, obviously, but I'm more curious about the political part of that, which is, since we're talking to you, how does that affect the next 12 months?
Again, it's hard to say because 12 months is a millennium in the way this stuff happens. We've seen so many things happen so quickly in the Middle East. I mean, it's been nearly 2 months now, or 3 months since the what happened in Israel and the West Bank. In Gaza, on the border of Gaza. That we've seen so many things happen already, and they're happening in Iran and they're happening in Lebanon, as you mentioned. Part of the job of journalists is to report the news and then speculate on what it could mean and give the honest fact that, yes, this could mean that this is going to widen the conflict, but it could also mean that it's not going to, right? It could also mean that by ousting one of the Hamas leaders, that the hostage situation is going to completely unravel and no hostage exchanges are going to happen. It could also mean that it cripples Hamas so much that they have no bargaining power. I mean, we really don't know. But what it does to American politics is the uncertainty of it allows people on either side to say how they would do things and why the other side isn't doing it properly or what they would do. So the worse things get, the better it tends to be historically for the sitting president. We have this, I guess, this old maxim in politics is that you don't get off the horse during a war. And if this is, in fact, a war that we are inserted in the middle of, then that tends to favor the incumbent. I don't know if those old maxims still hold anymore. They held for George W. Bush, who was not a popular president, but it was perceived that the war on terror was an actual war at that time. And people didn't even go for John Kerry, who was a decorated military guy. And they went for George W. Bush, who had escaped service and went into the Alabama National Guard during the same war. So I think there's something about that. This isn't our war. We have not been attacked in the United States. But it still feels like the president could spin this into his being a wartime president and staying the course with his negotiators and his diplomats. It's still hard to say.
That's fascinating. You just get me thinking, so this is a true hypothetical. Had social media been evolved to the point it is now when Bush's war started in Iraq, what would have happened?
It's a real hypothetical. I mean, it's one that I'm not capable of answering, to be frank. Like it would have changed. It's changed everything about the way we live now. So I would predict that it would have done the same thing then. It would have done the same thing in Vietnam. Maybe Watergate wouldn't have been as bad because the partisans would have been able to defend Nixon in a way that the journalists were not doing on television.
That's interesting.
It's happening with Trump now. You know, if Trump had been in 1974, he wouldn't have survived another day in office. But social media and the sort of the tribal nature of politics now that have come out of social media have affected the way that happens.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Just threw it out there as you were talking.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's certainly interesting to talk about.
What this is, I don't know what Kim is doing. She's throwing up some different things. Kim, what is this? I put my credibility glasses on. HuffPo, Trump asks court to find Jack Smith in contempt in further bid to delay his January 6th trial. Trump says that Smith's motions are filled with partisan rhetoric that mirror the Biden administration. So you see how he's using his court case to continue to, affect to muddy the water.
Well, he's going into the caucus, and he likes being positioned as a martyr, and any defendant, I think, would try and use every tactic they could to get out of it, to delay it, to find fault on the other side. And because he has even out of office, something of a bully pulpit, at least with his people, he uses that and does it. So I think that it's to have been expected. I don't think this is a big surprise, and I don't think that the court is going to behave in a certain way because it's Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think he's playing for the news cycle, and that's what that's all about. Yeah, he's doing absolutely nothing that's unexpected. I'm going to let you get back to covering the ramp up to the Iowa caucuses. It's so interesting to be in the belly of the beast as you are. I know you've done it a bunch of times. I don't know.
It's always fun. It's always fun.
Is it? Okay, I was just about to say. I don't know if the new smell has worn off, but
it's a very uniquely American process. This is a strange election year, as we all know, because there isn't the same type of campaigning. Even the Republican candidates who are running against Trump seem to be running in case Trump isn't the nominee, rather than with the notion that they can beat him. He's over 50% in Iowa. While he did have a beat on Haley in New Hampshire that tightened, I still don't see that changing much. And so there isn't the same kind of who's it going to be, or if it's this person, when they go to New Hampshire, what's going to happen, which often happens in Iowa, because Iowa doesn't generally pick the winner. They pick somebody who has a good couple of weeks, and so it's a curious and strange time. If you're missing one Iowa caucus, this is the one to miss. And the Democrats aren't even doing it this year, so
it's wild.
Yeah.
Next week, I want to talk to you more about the Democrats and what's happening there and the situation that they find themselves in. But for now,
we'll
I'll let you go.
also know more next week. Well, there'll be. I think even in the next week, we're going to learn more about the posture of Democrats in Congress on an immigration bill and how they're going to work with the White House on that.
Yeah, I think that was your take on that is really something I'm going to keep in mind as I watch the events. The notion that they have to broker some kind of deal is a really interesting one, and I hope it happens. I think these government shutdowns are bad for everybody. So
I agree.
Michael, thank you. I look forward to our next conversation.
All right, Mark. Talk to you
Give
later.
our best to Iowa. Michael Shure, everybody. Yeah, how about that? Pretty cool.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. We got a lot to do. I will tell all our stations on the Mark Thompson Show network that we will likely run over our scheduled time, but for all the right reasons. We have a really jam-packed Culture Blaster segment to come. He'll review some of the best movies of the last year, some of the movies for this weekend. We'll also talk Niners. We'll talk Warriors. So I don't know how we're going to do it, but we will cram it into some roughly prescribed amount of time. I will say this, Kim, I know you do a big show after this one called the After Party Live.
We'll do it live.
And what I'd like you to do, if you have to, I know your partner likes you to arrive punctually. If you must leave to do that, go ahead. I don't understand how it can be an after party if you don't wait until after the last show to start it, but that is your decision. You guys have your own thing. So if you have to leave now, it's okay. You'll probably have to leave.
No, I'm not going now.
Well, we might have to go in the middle of his segment then.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Anyway, be that as it may, smash the like button for the great Michael Shure, who reported in from the road on the Iowa Caucuses. We've done a lot today. We've done the passing of David Soul, the passing of Shecky Green, the passing of that sweet young actor who died in that plane crash in the Caribbean, the passing of Glynis Johns. There's a lot. Did I miss any passing? I probably did. I mean, people are passing all the time, I know. Can I take a moment before Michael Snyder begins to... Michael Snyder now rolling his eyes. So we take another... Are you okay with it, Michael? Okay, all right. Let me turn Michael Snyder on here. Even though you're not yet officially in the segment. So please, I would appreciate it if you a little respect, if you would, please, sir. Gary D, Happy New Year. Sandy and Gary D with a big shout out to you and a $10 contribution. You know, we are crowdfunded, so we like to pay attention to the crowd. I saw during Michael's segment, Ron Cook with a 20. What up, Ron?
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Ron. And thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you so much.
Also, Kathleen Bryan for a 20. Come on. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Kathleen.
so much.
Thank you so
My
much.
words upset so many people.
Big shout out is what I was looking for, Albert.
Big shout
Thank
out.
you very much. William DiMichele. Come on, William DiMichele.
Big shout out.
Love it. Or maybe it's DiMichele. Anyway, thank you for the 10 spot. And Sharon Kidd, TGIF, everyone. Mark, am I in the Hall of Fame? Of course you are. Sharon Kidd, you are totally HOF.
Big shout out.
Thank you for the 20. Have a great weekend all. Sharon I remember her in the picture with all the Mark Thompson merch. Remember, Kim, you'll recall? She had it all going on.
She even took her Mark Thompson merch to Hawaii.
Right.
And remember she had her throw pillow in the lava rock?
Yes, she had pictures of the merch in various locations. So we do love her. And I'm not going to cry, Sharon.
I'm not going to cry.
I do want to tell you, though, that you are HOF. And Mo Direct, a rare appearance. Thank you for the buck, Mo. Big shout out to you.
Big shout out.
Yeah, and Wes, of course, for the
Big
5
shout out.
spot. So we give everybody acknowledgments as much as we can. We got some pretty, frankly, decent for Christmas shouts and donations from people who didn't want their names mentioned. But I just want to acknowledge them and thank you so much. I also did get some acknowledgments along the way. Happy belated birthday, Mark. Thank you, Kim, Albert, and Tony, and your wonderful guests. Love the show. Happy New Year. A contribution there on PayPal. These are all PayPal. Albert, maybe you put up the website. From shadow producer Calvin Wong. This is for the iPad fund. A 5150 from him.
Did the luggage ever come back?
No, the luggage is still out. Believe it or not, nothing on that. So I'll have more next week, but I really appreciate, Geraldine, enjoying the program every day. Happy New Year to all. Sandra, happy birthday, Mark. Really cool. Elaine, Mark Thompson show. Best panel was the 1220 show with the two Davids, Mark and Michael. Kim put that together.
Yeah, thank you.
So really, really cool. And I believe, I hope this is the person who, I don't want to give somebody a shout if they didn't want it, so I will wait on that. I know one thing. I'm not sure of a lot, but I'm sure of my love for this next man. He writes for the Marina Times. He's a huge Giants and Warriors and San Francisco Niners fan. He comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it for the great Michael Snyder, everybody?
Hey, greetings and salutations, everybody. Mark, Kim, Albert, Tony, our wonderful, wonderful audience. And I want to start today by again wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. Yeah, I know. New Year's Eve is already gone. New Year's Day is gone. But it still ain't over by my ever accurate count. Today is the 12th day of the 12 days of Christmas. Which could mean we're in for an assault by a troop of 12 drummers drumming. So lock the studio door, Mark. We don't want any of that happening.
That would be ugly, yeah.
What it really means, though, is that tonight is 12th night, just like the Shakespeare play.
Oh, sure.
And you can finally drag that Christmas tree out to the curb. Also, tomorrow is the Feast of the Epiphany. You know, I'm Jewish, but I know about the Christian calendar.
I see.
The Feast of the Epiphany, January 6th, kicks off carnival season in New Orleans. That's why I know about the Feast of Epiphany. Rio, other places where good times are going to be had until Ash Wednesday brings Lent to all those who believe. And I believe in a good time, so get ready to party, people. Speaking of which...
Yes, sir.
A little belated happy birthday. I had the great honor and pleasure of joining you and Courtney and a bunch of your friends and colleagues for a little birthday gathering.
Oh, I don't recall that, but good for you. I might have been out for much of it.
You were blackout drunk, but you loved everybody.
I do love everybody. I still love everybody.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
I'm filled with love.
Your friends are pretty wonderful, and they come from all walks of life.
Yes.
And anyway, I just had a great time, and I want to
thank you. All I can say, Michael, is it's always good to see you. But the real question I had for you was related to, I'll get to your Marina Times column in a moment, but was related to the Niners. Now, they don't need this game. You and the commissioner probably agree that our backup quarterback is probably better than their backup quarterback. Who are we playing this week?
Carson Wentz and the LA Rams. It's strange to say that insofar as Wentz was a Philadelphia Eagle, and then he's been bouncing around the league, and they want to sit Matt Stafford, their quarterback, who
he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Took them to the Super Bowl, for God's sake. And obviously, Kyle Shanahan, the Niners coach, wants to sit Brock Purdy to, kind of let those little dings heal up.
Speaking of dings, I'm being told that I should be dinging insofar as.
Oh, really?
I will. Here's what I will say about insofar as. Michael just said that. Can't ding it because we only ding words, and that's a phrase. But it is a kind of highfalutin phrase, insofar as. I mean, it's kind of a phrase you'd write more than you would say, but he is a writer, so we got to give him some room. Anyway.
I'm college educated, dude. I can't stop myself.
I see. Okay, very good.
All right. You know what? All I can tell you about the 49ers.
This is the longest analysis. What's going to happen?
I don't want the rust to get in the way of their
Our backups are better than their backups. Okay. Who's going to win?
I think the 49ers are going to win.
Thank you very much.
I hope they win because it would be ignominious. Hit the ding.
Oh, my God. That is a
if we were to lose. Right. Dude, let's talk about new movies before we get to the Marina Times column about the best movies of the year. And I go into a little sidebar about the worst. This is the dead zone in the movie industry. This is when potential failures, things that didn't test well, things that have been lying around on the shelf are released by the studios and the distributors. And that's what we have this weekend. But let's proceed. I feel like we should.
Well, please.
Okay, like we've had horror movies about an evil possessed car, Christine, and an evil possessed dog, Cujo, both courtesy of author Stephen King's novels. And we've had horror movies about evil possessed dolls, the recent Annabelle films, and evil possessed ventriloquist dummies. Oh, they're so scary. Magic and Dead Silence. And now with Night Swim, we finally have a horror movie about an evil possessed swimming pool.
Wow. I can't wait to hear this premise. Go
Okay.
ahead.
There's never been anything like this.
It's going to drag you down into its depths if it doesn't like you splashing around in it. I mean, the premise is hilarious. I mean, I'm pretty sure that anyone pissing in the pool would piss it off, and there you go. Bye-bye.
I don't like the P word, but all right.
I'm
continue.
sorry. They might as well have
What?
titled this thing The Backyard Swimming Pool of Doom or Breaststroke to Hell. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what's next? Blades of Death about an evil electric lawnmower? I mean, consider this.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
How about Tool Shed of No Return?
Wild idea, but it just might work.
Exactly. It's a wild idea.
The movie business is so in love with low-budget horror movies that any household item could be the big bad in some scary movie.
True, yes.
I mean, how about the Hungry Hungry Trash Compactor?
I love it.
Wait. Garbage dispose all. I mean, you don't want to be dragged into that thing. So anyway, let's get back to the weird movie at hand, Night Swim. A family led by former Milwaukee Brewers pitcher Ray Waller, played by Wyatt Russell. He of Monarch: Legacy of Monsters right now. He's the U.S. agent in the Marvel TV shows and movies. He was so good in Everybody Wants Some, the Richard Linklater film. He plays Ray, who moves into a suburban fixer-upper with an out-of-use swimming pool in the backyard, as you know, one has. And it needs a good cleaning insofar as it's all clogged with leaves and other crud. So
I see. It has to be cleaned up.
Yeah, Ray had to retire from baseball due to a degenerative disease, but after cleaning the pool and filling it, his wife, played by Kerry Condon of the Banshees of Inisherin, I mean, she's a terrific actress.
Right.
His high school-age daughter and junior high-age son start swimming, and the waters of the pool seem to energize Ray and put him into remission.
No.
But the pool doesn't seem
It's restorative. It's a positive thing.
No, the pool doesn't seem so friendly to the rest of the family, Mark.
Oh, only good to the one.
So, you know, there's a Faustian situation here, as well as some backstory mumbo-jumbo.
I'll ding Fausti.
The movie is pretty waterlogged. I mean, silly would be an appropriate word. I laughed.
So wait a minute, it makes one of the sick family members healthy again, but it kills off the other ones?
Well, no, I'm not going to go so far as to spoil it for any bonehead who wants to watch it.
Okay.
But honestly...
I'm kind of into it so far.
Look, I laughed a couple times as I watched it, although I rolled my eyes more frequently. Night Swim was written and directed by Bryce McGuire and based on a short film he made with a creative partner. It was also produced by those scamps who brought us Megan, which was much funnier and more fun, and The Nun, which was scarier. Dude, I watched this thing, and I didn't need artificial respiration when it was over, but I'm afraid it did kill my brain cell or two. Oh, my God. Night Swim is in theaters.
Phineas wants to know, did anyone pee in the pool?
See, I already brought that up.
No, I know. You didn't. I would have preferred that you bring it up as Phineas did with the P-E-E as opposed to the word that you chose.
Oh,
but
I'm
anyway.
so very sorry. I don't want to pee you off.
Thank you.
Let's move on. Rennie Harlan has directed some decent action flicks, among them Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger, and some clunkers like the hilariously bad Cutthroat Island. But The Bricklayer, out this week in the early January, new movie Dead Zone, is one of those clunkers. This is the latest movie that gives its main character a pedestrian job delineated in the title. And it turns out that the guy is much more than he seems, generally being, a death-dealing, near-indestructible hero forced to fight against overwhelming odds using a certain set of skills.
I
That's
like
right.
it. Delineated is a ding word.
Liam Neeson stars in some of them, thus the reference to his certain set of skills.
Right.
But at least it feels like that's the sort of movie we have here. And by the way, the next movie like this after The Bricklayer is next week. It's The Beekeeper. I mean, they're going to keep rolling these movies out. Some bizarre job, and the guy has left the service, and he's pulled back in. Anyway, The Beekeeper features, by the way, hard-headed, no-nonsense ass-kicker Jason Statham, as you guessed it, the Beekeeper, and looks far more engaging and fun than The Bricklayer. And these movies do have a titular character out of the business for some reason.
Titular.
They're retired or burned out or disgusted until circumstances, just like in The Godfather,
call you back
pull
in.
them back in.
Sure.
And so it is with The Bricklayer, which catches up with ex-CIA fixer Steve Vale, played by Aaron Eckhart, who's a pretty good actor, been in some good movies, and here he's happily building a brick wall on the roof of a Philadelphia building while listening to Miles Davis on his earbuds. He's a quirky guy.
All right.
But he won't be laying bricks for long after he finds out that an ex-colleague played by terrific character actor Clifton Collins Jr. has gone rogue in Greece, killing journalists and making it seem like the CIA is responsible. So a high-level CIA administrator, again, here's another good actor, played by Tim Blake Nelson, pressures Steve to take down the loose cannon, teams him with a female agent who has no experience in the field, and they set off for Greece to fix the situation and clear the agency of wrongdoing. That's right, Mark. They have to clear the CIA of wrongdoing.
That'll take more than one movie.
Good luck with that. Anyway, the main actors, all pros, including Nina Dobrev as the female agent, they go through their paces. They got to get that paycheck. And most of the action sequences are pretty snappy, but we have seen so many of these plot elements before, and every character is so thinly drawn and cliched that there is not any emotional punch to any of it. The bricklayer, more like the egg layer.
Wow, I see what you did.
It's not terrible, but that's the best thing I can say about it. The bricklayer is in theaters and streaming on the usual video-on-demand platforms.
Oh, it's streaming at the same time.
Oh yeah, they're rolling this baby out. They're not messing around. Okay, continuing this week's parade of mediocrity. There's
Mediocrity is a ding word.
the latest, based on a true story movie about racing cars, the people who make them and the people who drive them. But unlike last year's high-profile auto race movies, Gran Turismo and Ferrari, both of which had merit and flair, Race for Glory, Audi versus Lancia, is a drag. And I don't mean as in Drag Race, the ones with cars, not the RuPaul version. I mean as dull. Race for Glory attempts to tell the tale with lots of invented dramatization to spice things up, one would presume, of the competition between car manufacturers Audi of Germany and Lancia of Italy, which reached a head when both companies faced off at the 1983 Rally World Championships in Europe. It seems that the company with the winning vehicle would, sell way more sports cars in the aftermath of the victory, so there was plenty on the line here. The well-regarded German leading man, Daniel Brühl, best known in the U.S. as a villain in The Kingsman and Baron Zemo in Marvel movies and TV shows, plays the head of the Audi team, while the rest of the cast, including Riccardo Scamarcio, who was in last year's Haunting in Venice as the Lancia exec, they do their best, but they're not familiar faces beyond Daniel Brühl. And it doesn't matter much because Race for Glory is short on palpable thrills and engaging characters. The supposedly high stakes never feel impactful. In fact, despite the kind of twisty road rally sequences through changing terrain, the movie feels like it's going in circles. And it's clearly a passion project for the director and co-screenwriter Stefano Mordini and Scamarcio, by the way, who was also listed as a screenwriter, but it's curiously short on passion. Race for Glory is in theaters and available on streaming platforms.
Yeah. Didn't really like Race for Glory. How about what else do you have to offer?
I do have one more movie, and guess what? It's the best movie of this quartet of releases and the only one I can recommend with any enthusiasm.
Quartet, I will ding. Go ahead.
Quartet? Really? Okay. The movie's called Mayhem, and it's a French production about a boxer named Sam who's been incarcerated in a Paris area prison for drug offenses, gets paroled, immediately finds himself in worse trouble than he was before, and is forced to flee the country, ending up in Thailand. And there, this generally decent guy finds honest work, falls in love with single mother Mia, and takes on the role of father to her adorable daughter Dara.
But he gets pulled back in.
Well, Sam and Mia want to buy some beachfront property and build a restaurant, but finances are tight, and to get enough cash
One
for the
last
land
fight.
deal, Sam agrees to do a risky job that is not, a boxing thing. Although while in Thailand, he participates in kickboxing matches to make a little scratch and even throws them for a little bit of a, pardon the expression, kickback. But in this case, it's not that.
Oh, it's got to kill somebody?
Yeah, he's agreeing to do this risky job for a local crime boss named Narong, who is a fellow French expat. So do you think things are going to go wrong and force Sam to somehow make things right? Does John Wick shoot people? I mean, let's be honest about this thing. You know where this thing is going. So Nassim Lee is spring-loaded as Sam, and the venerable French actor Olivier Gourmet is his usual compelling self as the sinister mobster. The copious martial arts fight sequences, which also include guns, knives, meat cleavers, and swords, are crackerjack and true to the title, mayhem. And here, the emotional content, which is centered around Sam, Mia, and Dara, is genuinely affecting, unlike these other films we've already discussed. Mayhem was well directed by Xavier Jens, who also co-wrote the script. It may be a violent B-movie, but it's one of the good ones. And yes, it's mostly in French and Thai with a bit of English, so it will require you to read subtitles between the acrobatics, punches, and stabbing. If you like this sort of diversion, it'll be worth it.
Wow.
It's in theaters and available on streaming platforms.
Isn't that interesting? So Michael has recommended Mayhem, the boxer turned lover of this woman and her child, and
pulled back in. He doesn't want to get involved in crime anymore, but he has no choice.
He has to do something. I mean, we're all faced with tough decisions in life. It is the best of the lot. Michael says Mayhem is in theaters and also on streaming platforms. Race for Glory, Audi versus Lancia, is the film that was well shot, well executed, but has no heart. And Michael can't really recommend it.
No, it's kind of dull.
The Bricklayer, not terrible, he says. Aaron Eckhart as the, maybe you want to change that graphic, Albert or Kim, whoever's doing that. It still says Mayhem. Oh, yeah, just take it off.
It's all mayhem in my book.
The Bricklayer is the, so Race for Glory, Audi versus Lancia, he says pass. The Bricklayer, there it is with Aaron Eckhart, with a special set of skills.
Yeah.
Not terrible, but he also felt as though everybody, hit their marks, did everything well, just didn't quite really put it over the finish line.
We've so been here before.
Night Swim, which I was intrigued by and continue to be intrigued by. It's the premise that I feel has a lot of depth to it. Get it? Swimming in the water? Yeah. Michael says no. It's a more or less just kind of a tepid.
Tepid. I like that.
Yeah, you see what I've done? You're rubbing off on me.
Dude, seeing that they made this, I think we shoot a movie here, the water feature of doom.
Yes, I just have the water feature.
That's true.
Anyway, he can't really recommend Night Swim, but there are other scary films coming out. Maybe hang for those.
Yeah.
Michael likes the chances that the Niners have this weekend in a game that doesn't really mean anything. And anything about the Warriors?
Well, the Warriors broke my heart last night. It was one of the most disheartening games I've seen in a very long time.
There's never been anything like this.
It was awful to watch. What are you going to do? I mean, they don't have a clear-cut identity right now. Draymond Green is sitting somewhere in a rubber room trying to deal with his anger issues. The kids are great, these young players that have come to the fore. But last night, the Joker from almost half court sunk a three-pointer that won the game with no time left on the clock.
Well, that's what he does. Let me ask you one last question in the effort to squeeze you for every last bit. Phineas J. Whoopi asks, is Michael going to review Reacher Season 2?
I already mentioned Reacher Season 2 a couple weeks ago. Thank you, Phineas. Thank you for listening. My annotated list of
like that, Phineas. Sorry.
My annotated list of
sucker.
Yeah.
My annotated list of the top 10 live-action narrative movies of 2023 is available at the current issue of the Marina Times, and anyone interested in checking it out. And that column also includes lists of 15 more terrific movies from 2023, 10 more foreign language movies I loved, and my top 5 animated movies. You need only go to marinatimes.com. It's at the top of the homepage, and it's also on the front page of the print edition, so la-di-da.
To review your top 10, 10 more.
15 more.
15 more. Then your top 10 foreign films that you like.
And top 5 animated movies.
That is I'm going to say this, that might be the best cinema list that I've ever come across.
Except I filed the story before I could see Godzilla -1, which, by the way, was seriously amazing. So I feel like it wasn't complete But here
that
we
would have
are.
made your top 10?
Yeah, so mea culpa. Well, it would have been maybe 11 or 12. Okay. I don't know. But anyway, what were your favorite movies from last year, Mark?
I don't think I got to the movies enough. I don't remember a lot, Michael. I'm on edibles a lot of the time when I see them. It's all, it's all a fog.
There's some terrible films. Maybe we can talk about them. Maybe we can talk about them next week. There are some really horrible movies, I think, from last year that people should avoid.
I'll tell you what I was really one of my most anticipated films that I was disappointed by, and that was the Wes Anderson film, Asteroid City.
I agree with you.
I didn't like it. I loved its look, but I just felt it didn't. I was so looking forward to that.
His self-indulgence can be a bit much, and it was all over the map, and it didn't cohere for me either. But there are some really bad movies that came out last year, and that wasn't really bad. It was a noble attempt.
It was just sort of
Anyway,
wish we could stay. Love you. Looking forward to next week. He comes and goes on a rainbow. The great Michael Snyder, everybody, the Culture Blaster.
Go Niners!
Go Niners. Bravo, Michael. Well done. I got to say, you've got a lot in a short time.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What can I say that hasn't already been said? What a show. If you took nothing more away from this show, even as we covered the malfeasance and greed associated with Donald Trump, the obituaries, the losses that have come, the Friday Fabulous Florida mayhem and weirdness, the political analysis from Michael Shure, the back and forth between Kim and fabulous producer John Daly, Albert bringing notable curation to the Florida segment. You absolutely walk away knowing that David Soul played Starsky. No, he played Hutch.
I'm telling you.
He played Hutch, okay? Hutch. Let's not screw it up. He played Hutch.
Lord.
Right. I'm so grateful to everybody who's made contributions today. I'm going to quickly acknowledge Maud, who is a super contributor. And I say, after that lengthy takedown that we got from PT yesterday, Maud was there, as I recall anyway, propping me up as I was downcast, having been affected by the toxicity of an angry, lengthy screed that was left by PT.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Maud. Yeah. I'm not going to cry, Maud, but
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
25 is really cool. Thank you very much, Maud. Pinky, with $1 a day, goes to $5 for the new year. Happy
500%, Mark.
Yeah, up. That's very impressive. Love the Culture Blaster, says
Big shout
Pinky.
out.
Big shout out. Thank you, Pink. And thank you so much to
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Yeah, very, very cool. Albert, I don't know what to say to everyone to get them to come back next week. You'll be here next week, won't you, Albert?
I will be here Wednesday.
Wednesday through Friday are Albert's days, typically.
Well, according
Tony
to
will
PT,
be
you're
here.
going to start yelling at Tony on Monday. So
I will start yelling at Tony.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, that was another thing. I don't yell at Tony. Mark, you don't yell at Tony as much as you do Albert and Kim. So Tony has got.
Thanks, Tony.
I don't know. The After Party Live is going down right now on the After Party Live station. But Monday and next week, I think it'll be Monday, Anthony Davis, our favorite Britisher who comes from the Midas Touch Network, will be here. We'll talk politics, and there is a lot more planned as well. Thank you for all the support. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year. And until tomorrow, the Great Shadow.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Much love in the new year. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.